example to what we discussed right now.
Yeah.
There's a company in Hyderabad, Biology.
Yeah.
So they have been doing the same thing. They have adopted a small village nearby to the main city of Hyderabad with the help of the university students over there. And they are supplying this bioloose to the people over there, especially the lower income group.
Yeah.
And they are monitoring it, whether they are using it or not. So I visited that facility approximately 8 or 9 years ago. So they've been doing some commendable work over there. Still existing.
Oh, okay. Wow. Now, in Calcutta, there is a guy named. He's called the Toilet Man of Bengal. Well, let me show you this, and then I talk about that. Okay, it's a good. Well, let's talk about this since I stopped this thing anyway. So what are these people in Hyderabad doing? They are providing them bioloose.
Yes.
So
like the digester is there, so the waste material goes over there, nice one goes over there, and they have put some anaerobic decomposition is happening over there. But they are not using the methane at that time. They are having a small pipe to take off the methane from there. And they have provided it to the lower income group people in the villages. That they are doing over there.
Okay. So there is this guy named. I'm just pulling him up, okay, on my phone. I'm trying to locate his name. His last name is Banerjee. His first name is Arijit Banerjee. He's called the Toilet Man of Bengal. He comes from a very, very old Bengali family. Like, big landlords and all of that, and he's a doctor. And he decided that lack of access to sanitation is a big problem in Bengal, and a big problem in India. And the centralized STP system is not going to work. So he has been building decentralized sanitation systems where bacteria take care of most of the human waste that is put out there. And even the sludge produces very little. He has been putting this in many places all over Calcutta. So one place in Calcutta that has it is the police headquarters, Calcutta City Police Headquarters. Rather than have a traditional sanitation service is inadequate. This was put in place. Also, in 2023, the Chief Minister of Calcutta, I believe, is a woman. She goes to many villages which might not have good sanitation systems. So the Chief Minister has a special van that goes with her, which has a mobile toilet with this guy's technology. And I have some videos on that. I can share that with you later on. But this is a serious issue. Okay, lots of people are working on it, and it has to be solved because otherwise diseases So rainy season. Why do diseases go up in rainy season? Not because the rains come with bacteria. It's because there's no sanitation. Right? That's why diseases go up in the rainy season. Not because the rains are bringing the bacteria. Is that all the human waste lying around is now making its way to the groundwater. And people are using contaminated water for making all kinds of things, and therefore people get sick. And people are dying, right? So it's a serious issue. It's an issue that needs to be, and if people don't die, they're sick for many days. This needs to be fixed. He's from Bihar?
Yeah.
He's the guy for Sulabh? Yeah. But how successful or unsuccessful has Sulabh been? I used to hear a lot of talk about it like 30 years ago, but now I don't hear about it.
Initially when he established Sulabh in the national system,
Yeah.
he used to start with the municipal corporation. So Sulabh complex was built.
Yeah.
And it's maintained by that
The NGO. Yeah.
Afterwards, some conflict happened between the NGO and municipal corporation, and they separated.
Yeah.
And that's how it is now. It's not in very effective way. India, there are many places they have their own complex. Even in Delhi,
Yeah.
every metro entry gate they have a sewage
Okay.
complex. That is
Generally working well.
yeah.
I think
It's
we
just
even
like
got
it was-
the Maxis award for that.
You want Maxis Award?
Yes, of 2023.
Yeah. And now we can actually take the picture because Pratisha has come. So now after this break we can go and take the picture. Anyway, in many cities, you know, when I was here, I also went to a city in Kerala that I went for the first time called Alapi. And Alapi has the system of canals. It's often called the Vents of the East, but all those canals were really sewage drains. So they were horrible. They were really stinking, and a local non-profit there started putting in, and maybe I can show you, started putting in decentralized sanitation systems that removed all the sewage from the drains. And they've done a really good job with reviving the drains, and the drains are now living. The drains have clean water, and they have a system called DWAT system. They've installed DWAT systems, and that's really worked very well. In fact, when I came with my students once, one of my students was so inspired by that system, she applied for a grant, and she got a grant from National Geographic to come and document all that. She made a documentary on how they cleaned up the system. But I want to show you this one by Rose George, and we can discuss that a little bit, and we can break at 12:30. So this is 15 minutes. It will be 12:15 by the time we finish this. We'll discuss for 5 or 10 minutes, then we'll go for a group picture, and then we'll break for lunch. And you know, the expert on sanitation systems really is sitting here. So he's doing his PhD on that, so he would have lots of comments on it.
And I found one a public bathroom. Let's talk dirty. A few years ago, oddly enough, I needed the bathroom. And I found one a public bathroom, and I went into the stall and I prepared to do what I'd done most of my life. Use the toilet, flush the toilet, forget about the toilet. And for some reason that day, instead, I asked myself a question. And it was, where does this stuff go? And with that question, I found myself plunged into the world of sanitation. There's more coming. Sanitation, toilets, and poop. And I have yet to emerge. And that's because it's such an enraging yet engaging place to be. Let's go back to that toilet. It wasn't a particularly fancy toilet. Wasn't as nice as this one from the World Toilet Organization. That's the other WTO. But it had a lockable door, it had privacy, it had water, it had soap, so I could wash my hands, and I did because I'm a woman, and we do that. But that day, when I asked that question, I learned something, and that was that I'd grown up thinking that a toilet like that was my right. And in fact, it's a privilege. 2.5 billion people worldwide have no adequate toilet. They don't have a bucket or a box. 40% of the world have no adequate toilet. And they have to do what this little boy is doing by the side of the Mumbai Airport Expressway, which is called open defecation, or poo-pooing in the open. And he does that every day. And every day, probably, that guy in the picture walks on by. Because he sees that little boy, but he doesn't see him. But he should, because the problem with all that poop lying around is that poop carries passengers. 50 communicable diseases like to travel in human shit. All those things, the eggs, the cysts, the bacteria, the viruses, all those can travel in 1 gram of human feces. How? Well, that little boy will not have washed his hands, he's barefoot, he'll run back into his house, and he will contaminate his drinking water and his food and his environment with whatever diseases he may be carrying by fecal particles that are on his fingers and feet. In what I call the flushed and plumbed world that most of us in this room are lucky to live in, the most common symptoms associated with those diseases, diarrhea, is now a bit of a joke. It's the runs, the Hershey squirts, the squits. Where I come from, we call it Delhi Belly as a legacy of empire. But if you search for a stock photo of diarrhea in a leading photo image agency, this is the picture that you come up with. Still not sure about the bikini. And here's another image of diarrhea. This is Marie Saley, 9 months old. You can't see her because she's buried under that green grass in a little village in Liberia, because she died in 3 days from diarrhea. The Hershey squirts, the runs, a joke. And that's her dad. She wasn't alone that day because 4,000 other children died of diarrhea. And they do every day. Diarrhea is the second biggest killer of children worldwide. And you've probably been asked to care about things like HIV/AIDS or TB or measles. But diarrhea kills more children than all those 3 things put together. It's a very potent weapon of mass destruction. And the cost to the world is immense. $260 billion lost every year on the losses to poor sanitation. These are cholera beds in Haiti. You'll have heard of cholera, but we don't hear about diarrhea. It gets a fraction of the attention and funding given to any of those other diseases. But we know how to fix this. We know because in the mid-19th century, wonderful Victorian engineers installed systems of sewers and wastewater treatment in the flush toilet. And disease dropped dramatically. Child mortality dropped by the most that had ever dropped in history. The flush toilet was voted the best medical advance of the last 200 years by the readers of the British Medical Journal, and they were choosing over pill, anaesthesia and surgery. It's a wonderful waste disposal device. But I think that it's so good, it doesn't smell, we can put it in our house, we can lock it behind a door. And I think we've locked it out of conversation too. We don't have a neutral word for it. Poop's not particularly adequate, shit offends people, feces is too medical. Because I can't explain otherwise when I look at the figures, what's going on. We know how to solve diarrhea and sanitation. But if you look at the budgets of countries, developing and developed, you think there's something wrong with the math. Because you'll expect absurdities like Pakistan spending 47 times more on its military than it does on water and sanitation, even though 150,000 children die of diarrhea in Pakistan every year. But then you look at that already minuscule water and sanitation budget, and 75 to 90% of it will go on clean water supply, which is great. We all need water. No one's going to refuse clean water. But the humble latrine or flush toilet reduces disease by twice as much as just putting in clean water. Think about it. That little boy who's running back into his house, he may have a nice clean fresh water supply, but he's got dirty hands that he's going to contaminate his water supply with. And I think that the real waste of human waste is that we are wasting it as a resource and as an incredible trigger for development. Because these are a few things that toilets and poop itself can do for us. So a toilet can put a girl back in school. 25% of girls in India drop out of school because they have no adequate sanitation. They've been used to sitting through lessons for years and years, holding it in. We've all done that, but they do it every day. And when they hit puberty and they start menstruating, it just gets too much. And I understand that. Who can blame them? So if you met an educationalist and said, I can improve education attendance rates by 25% with just one simple thing, you'd make a lot of friends in education. That's not the only thing it can do for you. Poop can cook your dinner. It's got nutrients in it. We ingest nutrients, we excrete nutrients as well. We don't keep them all. In Rwanda, they're now getting 75% of their cooking fuel in their prison system from the contents of prisoners' bowels. So these are a bunch of inmates in a prison in Butare. They're genocidal inmates, most of them, and they're stirring the contents of their own latrines. Because if you put poop in a sealed environment, in a tank, pretty much like a stomach, then pretty much like a stomach, it gives off gas, and you can cook with it. And you might think it's just good karma to see these guys stirring shit. But it's also good economic sense, because they're saving $1 million a year. They're cutting down on deforestation. And they found a fuel supply that is inexhaustible, infinite, and free at the point of production. It's not just in the poor world that poop can save lives. Here's a woman who's about to get a dose of the brown stuff in those syringes, which is what you think it is. Except not quite, because it's actually donated. There is now a new career path called sperm donor. It's like the new sperm donor. Because she has been suffering from a superbug called C. diff, and it's resistant to antibiotics in many cases. She's been suffering for years. She gets a dose of healthy human feces, and the cure rate for this procedure is 94%. It's astonishing. But hardly anyone is still doing it. Maybe it's the ick factor. That's okay, because there's a team of research scientists in Canada which has now created a stool sample, a fake stool sample, which is called Repopulate. So you'd be thinking by now, okay, the solution's simple. We give everyone a toilet. This is where it gets really interesting, because it's not that simple, because we are not simple. So the really interesting, exciting work, this is the engaging bit, is in sanitation, is that we need to understand human psychology. We need to understand software, as well as just giving someone hardware. They found in many developing countries that governments have gone in and given out free latrines and gone back a few years later and found that they've got lots of new goat sheds or temples or spare rooms with their owners happily walking past them and going over to the open defecating ground. So the idea is to manipulate human emotion. It's been done for decades. The soap companies did it in the early 20th century. They tried selling soap as healthy, no one bought it. They tried selling it as sexy, everyone bought it. In India now, there's a campaign which persuades young brides not to marry into families that don't have a toilet. It's called No Loo, No I Do. And in case you think that post is just propaganda, here's Priyanka, 23 years old. I met her last October in India. And she grew up in a conservative environment. She grew up in a rural village in a poor area of India. And she was engaged at 14, and at 21 or so, she moved into her in-laws' house. And she was horrified to get there and find that they didn't have a toilet. She'd grown up with a latrine. It was no big deal, but it was a latrine. And the first night she was there, she was told that at 4 o'clock in the morning, her mother-in-law got her up, told her to go outside and go and do it in the dark, in the open. And she was scared. She was scared of drunks hanging around. She was scared of snakes. She was scared of rape. After 3 days, she did an unthinkable thing. She left. And if you know anything about rural India, you'll know that's an unspeakably courageous thing to do. But not just that. She got her toilet, and now she goes around all the other villages in India persuading other women to do the same thing. It's what I call social contagion, and it's really powerful and really exciting. Another version of this, another village in India near where Priyanka lives, is this village called Lakara, and about a year ago it had no toilets whatsoever. Kids were dying of diarrhea and cholera. Some visitors came using various behavioural change tricks, like putting out a plate of food and a plate of shit and watching the flies go one to the other. Somehow people who'd been thinking that what they were doing was not disgusting at all suddenly thought, oops. Not only that, but they were ingesting their neighbour's shit. That's what really made them change their behaviour. So this woman, this boy's mother, installed this latrine in a few hours. Her entire life she'd been using the banana field behind, but she installed a latrine in a few hours. It costs nothing, it's going to save that boy's life. So when I get despondent about the state of sanitation, even though these are pretty exciting times, because we've got the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation reinventing the toilet, which is great. We've got Matt Damon going on bathroom strike, which is great for humanity, very bad for his colon. But there are things to worry about. It's the most off-track Millennium Development Goal. It's about 50 or so years off track. We're not going to meet targets, providing people with sanitation at this rate. So when I get sad about sanitation, I think of Japan, Because Japan, 70 years ago, was a nation of people who used pit latrines and wiped with sticks. And now it's a nation of what are called washerettos, washlet toilets. They have inbuilt bidet nozzles for a lovely hands-free cleaning experience. And they have various other features like a heated seat and an automatic lid raising device, which is known as the marriage saver. But most importantly, what they have done in Japan, which I find so inspirational, is they brought the toilet out from behind the locked door. They've made it conversational. People go out and upgrade their toilet. They talk about it. They've sanitized it. I hope that we can do that. It's not a difficult thing to do. All we really need to do is look at this issue as the urgent, shameful issue that it is. And don't think that it's just in the poor world that things are wrong. Our sewers are crumbling. Things are going wrong here too. The solution to all of this is pretty easy. I'm going to make your lives easy this afternoon and just ask you to do one thing, and that's to go out, protest, speak about the unspeakable, and talk shit. Thank you.
Okay. Any reactions to that? Any thoughts on that? Abhishek, anything to add to that? You might have lots of things to say. Abhishek will add something. Yeah.
So main thing is that behavioral change is very important.
Behavior change, yeah.
Even
And
if
remember
they
she
are
said something about behavior change? They showed how, they put some food and some human waste on a plate, and they saw that bacteria were going from the human waste and then going to the food. So if you do demonstrations like that, and she said like, the people in the village realized that not only were the flies coming from their own waste, they're coming from the neighbor's waste, so they quickly put it on the toilet. Yeah.
that makes a very big difference in the behavioral change. Most of the issue is because of that. The government has an initiative, the NGOs are working on it, but the thing is that the cultural aspect is still stick to that. They not to use the toilet and go outside and get away from the house to defecate. And that is the major thing. If we change the behavior of other cultures perspective to the defecate, then basically changes.
And there was a Bollywood movie about this, right? Toilet. That was in 2017 and 2018. This is from 2009. So, it's about her, right? It's about her. Anyone else? So I know in planning we don't discuss these kinds of things, but these are very, very important things. Ultimately the profession of planning grew out of public health. Okay, planning did not come out of making a city beautiful. Planning came out of the desire to make cities healthier places. So some of the founders of planning in Britain were Patrick Geddes, right? He was trying to make cities healthier places, not necessarily beautiful places. And in the process you make it beautiful, yes. But somehow in planning education we were focusing more on beautification of a city. The health aspect is gone. So I just want to bring that back. Through all this water supply, sewage, we really need to focus on these things. And when we do focus on these things, we will get a lot of support. Planners will get support from politicians. Planners will get support from citizens. If we can present this as a health issue, health, safety, welfare issue, rather than just a beautification issue.
And I observe that the females in the health issues because they don't have access to the clean water.
Yeah.
They don't have access to this. I challenge say that the Japan champion is left aside any developed country around the world.
Yeah.
The champion in the sense that you do not have to do anything, but everything is taken care of by the system itself.
Yeah. And Japanese toilets, some of the toilets need a PhD to operate because they have so many options.
Yeah, but I think I would again rate that's very good. They have just eliminated these things from their socio-cultural thing. Nobody has to worry about.
And they've eliminated the stigma about discussing that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it's, and the US and other cities around the world, in developed countries, there is the way that people deal it. People are, if you are not aware of the system, then it will lead to the different kind of issues there. But Japan has already, they have done a wonderful thing. I don't know why it has not been replicated, because of the cost or something.
No, I think there's a lot of, you haven't been, and many countries, in developing countries have not been able to get over the stigma aspect of discussing this. Yeah.
Still we need to go ahead. And many of the states in India itself, the women want to go in that state because they manage well, the other state is having some issues.
Yeah. I mean, Japan, as she said, right, 70 years ago, they were defecating in the open. So when they were building like very good Sony cameras and all, they were still defecating in the open. But they switched, they talked about this, and now they are, you know, I judge the quality of a hotel anywhere in the world by the brand of the toilet that they have. Yeah, even airports. And they have a Japanese toilet, I know the hotel is good. And I know the airport is good.
But very few hotels they provide the Japanese toilet.
Very expensive.
Yeah, very expensive, and the hardware and software is also is very intricate in order to manage that. But I would say it's very comfortable. The Japanese toilet. Even some of the times the women especially don't want to go to use the toilet because of the other hygienic issues. That is already been eliminated
in the Japanese toilets. Yeah.
Because sometimes superior travel is unnecessary for hygienic.
Yeah.
And since we need to pay some money in order to use the access stuff, so I can understand. And this is major issue.
It's a major issue. So as planners, you should talk a little bit more about this and address this issue. It can be solved. Japan solved it. Many developing, Rwanda, you saw what's happening, right? In jails they're doing. We should do it in our, Patna I'm sure has one or two jails. Put this in the jails and it will reduce the cost of operation of the jail.
One of the facilities, Sulabh International, next to Kanimana,
Yeah.
they do the same thing. They have a toilet, so they're taking the gas out of it. They're using it for lighting and they're cooking gas also.
Yeah.
That is they are doing.
Yeah, using it for lighting is a bit of a challenge because you have to convert it to electricity also. But for cooking it's very easy.
Yeah.
No, nothing needed. You can just put a pipe.
So they are not taking anything from the municipal corporation.
Yeah.
For lighting and all, they are using the gas to it.
Yeah.
Now it might be only one, but earlier it's the initiative of Videshwar Pajan is not.
Sulabh.
Yes.
And that
There were lots of toilets. Even in this institute there was now where the guest house is. There was one when we were students in this college. There was another one in science college. They had gone for some kind of survey. We had seen that. But they were defunct in our institutes. That facility was also good. Even science college had this facility. Perhaps there was no maintenance or something like that. There were many Sulabh Shauchalaya, all these were being managed. But now, that's the thing. There should be some sort of permanent or long-lasting solutions.
Yeah.
Then we
I used to demonstrate clean water and the water, treated water from this system. The both were having the same quality.
Yeah.
And he used to drink, so at the same time, he is the urine of some other person, but I'm drinking because it's safe.
Yeah.
biggest challenge that we solved was before this water closets that are not using, there were batteries which had some kind of it was not bit kind of, it was like cleanable. I mean the bit, it could be taken in some cart and then thrown away to manual scavenging. Yeah, so the scavengers he eliminated scavenging, and those scavengers got respectable jobs which have given them offerings and they ran for the that was his biggest thing, which for which he got government awards also, several awards.
Maxis Sewage.
Very in India is highly
He
rated.
has done a wonderful job in
Yeah.
order to take care of this. But I don't know why it has not been
He hails from Bihar. So that is
He made business out of the seat. People say that because when he comes to the diet, people say he's made the business out of the seat.
But still, he provided, saved so many lives, right? So many people would have died without his.
it's a good thing to make business out of waste.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's because we discussed it as in Central Pollution Control Board, and this lake, Rudrasagar Lake, there are systems of lakes in the Deccan region where each are interconnected. So one of the lakes was there where there is Mahakal temple is well known the lake, among the famous local lakes. So just behind it the Rudrasagar Lake was. So our job was CPCP had taken up that work to improve the Rudrasagar Lake and its surrounding because there is scope held every 12 years. So one of them was coming in the next year when we were there. I was there. So that dredging was supposed to be there. And then whatever soil would be taken out, that was a big thing. The municipality wanted to dispose it off, and then we said that it can have a barricade kind of a road running, so a rampart sort of embankment, and the road will be there on top of it, and there will be street lights all around. So it was done actually because of the forthcoming corona. And then I went there another time, all the lightings were there. Waste is actually highly cherished products. I mean, they can be very useful for these things. You just have to think of it.
Yeah, you know, in this the Center for Social Innovation that I mentioned earlier, they cultivate lots of fruits on campus, and most of their food comes from on campus using human urine and waste. Yeah, and it's very good.
It's very good, very nutritious.
Very nutritious, very good. In my city, Iowa City, population 75,000, we have a centralized STP, and all the waste from that, you know, the sludge from that, was used to develop a large area that is now the best soccer fields in the entire district, because it's so nutritious. The grass gets so much of good nutrition. And people come from great distances to play soccer on this field. It's really good, lush, nice grass, and it's all waste from the sludge from the sewage.
Very advantage that there are microbes in wastes when they convert to manure, which artificial fertilizers do not have. They actually kill the microbes that are in the soil. So after a while, some years it will be very healthy. It will give healthy crops. Probably later on the land deteriorates.
Anyone else? Any comments? I'm noticing that the faculty are making comments. The students are not talking about this. I want some discussion from the students. What do you guys are going to be there. You have to deal with the stuff. You can't just not talk about it.
Very important for females.
Yeah.
Because one of the leading causes of kidney stones among female in India.
Yes.
They don't get adequate oil facilities, so they hold it.
Yeah.
And because of that, they have kidney stones.
Yeah.
Even they are thirsty, they don't drink water.
They don't drink water. They don't
Afraid
drink
of-
adequate
Because there might not be a toilet.
Yeah.
And the elasticity of the bladder is
Yeah.
I think it's a little.
Yeah, speak louder so everyone can hear you.
Even when we travel on trains or somewhere in the railway stations or something, generally we don't find that it is hygienic. So we tend to hold it a little longer so that once we reach back home and then we freshen up, and that leads to health issues. So the travel also is very important for
so even by providing good toilets, people like us also occasionally place
check before.
Cleanliness is a major issue.
Cleanliness, yeah.
Yes. Even if toilet is there, we don't find it very clean, so we don't use it. Means I went several times in this Rajini, the condition of the toilets are very good, but people are not using in a proper manner. So it is very important to educate the person how to use the toilet, because it's not for use, single use. Means in Japan, everyone cleans the toilet.
Yeah.
First they go and after having their toilet means they clean that toilet. So it's our responsibility and everyone should do. Means we have to, what government will do, what means NGO can do, means if we cannot, means we should be very cooperative for that.
Exactly.
Is that educating doesn't mean just one type of toilet, all kinds of toilets.
All kinds of
Every
toilet.
toilet has its own advantage.
Yeah.
The Indian system has its own
It's own
advantage.
advantage.
You don't have to. Yeah,
Much more
much
advantages
more
than the
advantages
Western
actually
one.
because
Even if you are acting for the Indian rather than
but
going
I've read articles of foreigners, people from other countries coming and they don't know how to use the Indian system. They go inside and come back without using it. That happened because one of my
Relatives.
niece, she's born and brought up in London, and when she comes to India and she gets the Indian system, she'll go inside and come back again without using it. Because she is, I don't know, hesitant to use it. I don't know, she doesn't know how to use
India is
it.
just the opposite.
Just the
Because
opposite.
Western toilets and all the airports and everywhere, and the Indians are not comfortable with it.
Yeah, because they fear it's not clean enough.
Yeah, I feel it's not the happiness. People is not what they
Yeah. You know, when I bring students to India, we have an orientation before they come. And I show them videos on how to use an Indian toilet.
Everybody should.
the any type of toilet you use, that could be.
Yeah.
And the people don't discuss this also.
Yeah.
Even though they will discomfort, they will not. And other people will face that.
Otherwise, some people, they feel okay, we have to use this, but then they don't know.
Yeah.
They step on the
Western toilet.
and then
Use it like the Indian system.
Yeah.
They don't. It's not their intention to do it, but just
Because they don't know.
Lack of knowledge and lack of education, they tend to do it.
Yeah.
So that is
I think beyond the type of toilet, I think it's important that everyone has access to a toilet, right? Whether it's Indian or Western, and there's some kind of treatment facility, and people recognize that they should not be going in the open, but should be using the toilet.
I have the personal experiences of the two countries, that China and Russia.
Yeah.
Both were having the similar issue like India. They were open defecation and then the toilet was not handled really not.
Yeah.
But they have done a marvelous job in order to take care of the hygienic access to the toilet. You can read the literature that China was not good. Because China's toilet system does not encourage us to use that but they have done a remarkable job because I have been visiting us 15 years. I have seen that they have done very good because you can each student can access the toilet. Because it is in Russia. Russia toilet system is very bad. Female does not want to go to Russia. That was one of the reasons. They don't come up in the public. You go there. But they have also tried to do something.
Yeah. And in China, actually, prior to 1990, majority of the population was OD, open defecation. You know, my department chair right now is from China. He grew up in China. And he says till he got to high school, he was open defecating because there were no access. Yeah. And they have, the transformation has been so significant, very significant.
There's something interesting. There's a cat. I saw I was in my parents' house and this cat, it dug a hole and then goes and covered the hole back again with mud and went again. So I talked to my mother about this and as a family member. I said that is the system of doing it. And then there are Sanskrit texts which if people are going for open defecation, there is a certain way of doing it. So you have to dig holes and the way animals do that. So, I mean, it's interesting to know that India had some
That
history.
becomes the wrong for some other stuff.
Yes, it degrades and becomes compost later.
There was a very good article in the Economist. They were arguing about that the system which we are adopting is not sustainable. And the open system is more
It's more
sustainable. But we
sustainable.
need to only take care of the hygienic and other stuff. If that can be doable, that is more sustainable than the system which we are adopting.
The sewage centralized.
Yeah, centralized one.
Centralized is not a good one. Centralized is not a good one.
They argue very well in terms of the economic society and psychology. Everything arguing regard to the
Yeah.
India has a long history of toilets.
Indus Valley had that.
Indus Valley, and they had very good platforms and with the openings in them, and then the poo would be clean by flowing water. Very good system actually. So it did continue, somehow it declined.
Yeah, it's a mystery, right?
Some memory remained, people moved away and they carried those otherwise.
colonial period damage the structure and all.
Not only that, they created the systems for the European enclaves and not for the Indian societies. That was a big deal.
And society essentially, I would say, in order to adapt to the system, because it's a social imposed and the local knowledge.
Okay, the students still don't want to talk about it yet.
They will have different things. I was
thinking to work on the rights in the world, work on ask questions.
The context of design, the major contribution to urban education is children.
Yeah.
The urban area, the community toilet design is not very much for children.
Yeah.
So normally there is a toilet in coverage, but children should be dedicated to it.
Yeah.
So that is a major aspect because most of these small children who were affected in the contract attack, they have
Yeah, they're defecating in the open.
even though they have a toilet, but the toilet design is not such that these small children can use those toilets.
Yeah.
So that aspect has to be incorporated.
So why were the parents sending the kids into the open? They were using toilets, but they were sending the kids. Why was that
No,
happening?
the community toilet.
Okay.
In community, elder people, elder can go and use this.
Okay.
For children, it's very difficult.
Oh, because of design issues.
Design issues. So that is when they encourage just children were encouraged to go outside. And they are vulnerable to
When my daughter grew up slightly and she started using the toilet, she was sitting on this water closet, and then one day she asked me, Mama, what will happen if I fall down there? Will I go?
Yes, it's so much sensitive enough to.
basically they don't used to go alone to the toilet.
But people,
They
some
ask
people
anybody to come with them.
We would like to hear from the students.
Yes.
Give your view, what is your view and all.
Or your experience.
Yeah, Samad wants to say something about that. Go ahead, Samad.
He is ready to announce
Don't do announcement, just.
Given our biological system become habitual of some type of toilet, whenever we change, but our habit, biological system doesn't allow us to change.
Really? Okay.
There's some sort of mental baggage.
Mental value. I know Adrish wants to say something. Adrish, go ahead.
So my friend was from rural area. When you go through this village, they say the open defecating is quite relaxing to this. Whenever they get a time. That is what a behavioral thing is.
Yeah.
In urban they use toilet, but when they go to rural, sometimes they go because the community asks them to go toilet morning, open defecating.
My house just had the same experience. My daughter-in-law, she never uses the toilet in the house. She always goes.
So she's the opposite of that girl in the movie.
She goes out to defecation. My mother-in-law is using the toilet, but she wants to go outside with her friends.
That's wrong. Actually, some of the negative aspects that I realized. Earlier people used to be used newspapers into toilets. Now it has changed to mobile.
And many of the toilet has a book shelf. Yeah, book shelf and everything is just you just pay more tax. Everyone also surprised for me. Who needs there?
Now they provide mobile charger.
Other things is that is the kind of the environment especially if you drink a lot of cold water and all those things, then you need time in order to get your relief. So that's why they do all those things so they can just spend some time. Design is very good enough relaxation and all those things. And somewhere if the house is where this thing very because outside some other person will come.
But now with people taking their mobile phones, if there's no mobile service outside, maybe they'll start using toilets because they have mobile service.
There are other barriers. Some people don't like toilets together, but some prefer attached toilets. These are also some of the
While we were doing the vernacular research in three in 3K Sri Lanka. So it's a temple town. The whole town is built around the temple, and they neglected toilet. They didn't have toilet in their houses. Although Lathan houses they don't have toilet, but now they are incorporated. Although they have backyard and lines are because they didn't want it, it's a kitchen and so they go to the community toilet. But what I see during this smart city project and all, the quality of toilet, municipal toilet can make such worst quality that after a month or two it's unusable.
So that's because they're maintained by the government or even with the non-profit?
Maintained by the government, they don't think about the maintenance also. We are in such a improper way just to give the numbers that we have to protect.
That's a big problem. You're also in Patna. They have made toilets all around the city, but none of them are usable.
Because they're not maintained.
They're not maintained.
Even with Sulabh maintaining it.
Worst quality.
Because they don't have a tie with Sulabh anymore.
Okay.
There's other issues. Like the government gives money for construction of toilets. Now what people do, some of them, they would like to get the money but they won't build the toilet. So they'll have their photographs in some of the toilets and send it to the government.
For storage.
So that's what I was telling at the beginning of class in these villages in Udaipur. That's what they're doing. They have money for the toilet, they built the thing right to the front of the house, storage or a small temple room, like, sometimes for shops. Or is it toilet money that is?
A lot of it came from Bihar and
If there's no light. And so solving the toilet problem will really improve quality of life, right, for women and children so much. And as planners, that's, our focus should be improving the quality of life. And whether we do it through having better roads or better toilets or access to usable toilets that will be maintained. We could probably do more for a city as planners, by making toilets that are usable by women, maintained well, than by making 5 roads with beautiful trees. We can probably improve quality of life much more.
things are improved in the railway sector.
So the trains are becoming better. Train toilets are becoming better.
The tracks are
I know many people do fly rather than
Yes, that happened with us
They will fly, but they will not prefer to go by train.
Because of toilets.
Because of the toilet is
the
a major
excreta
concern.
on the railway tracks. Because the trains had open toilets, so whatever ground fall down directly on the tracks. Now the government is taking initiative. Different types of toilets are installed in the toilets. Bio toilets.
So you have to spend more also. Because you have to fly, you have to pay more. Train is relatively cheaper. But because of the toilet issue, you have to fly. Even though you don't like flying, you have, for hygiene, you have to fly.
Better toilet infrastructure also reduces the amount of money person spend on maintenance.
Exactly. And also their productivity. If you have diarrhea or something, you're not going to work for so many days. You're missing school for college, missing for so many days.
Bettering their lifestyle.
Bettering their lives, exactly. Yeah. So it's a public health issue, right? So planners and public health people need to collaborate more to solve this problem.